different than the icons that we hear about in the Catholic Church. An icon is something that you worship to get to God. You go through this to get to Him, and we don't do that. That is not the purpose of the Kaaba. It's a place for us to direct our devotion, as in lining up, as in being in organized lines, but the heart is directly worshiping Allah without going through a box or through anybody. We don't worship through that, nor do we worship through the one standing in front of us called the Imam. Our prayers don't go through him either, but rather this is to give us all direction, and that's the main purpose behind it. Because Allah tells us in the Quran itself that it is not piousness or righteousness that you are turning your faces to the east or to the west. But righteousness is that what? That you have this right attitude and belief in God and a pure heart, and you're dedicating that heart to Him. This is the meaning behind it. And so once we understand that, then we realize that we're not worshiping anything on this earth, whether it is a man or a rock, a stick, a stone, or anything. Keep in mind that this is the same place in the desert where Ishmael and his father Abraham went to worship. And they performed certain manasik, or rituals, that were carried forward even by their descendants and finally to Muhammad. It's not something new, and it's well established. And by the way, there's also a story amongst the Israeliyat, which means the stories from Israel, previous generations, talking about that when Adam and Eve first were put out of the Jannah, or the paradise, that this is the place where Adam went to make his prostration. This is where Adam went to put his head down on the ground and ask for forgiveness for having eaten the fruit. And certainly, if that's a true story, that is an amazing place, a wonderful place for us to turn our direction and ask forgiveness from Allah, by putting our heads down on the ground and asking Allah to forgive us. It's not so much the place, it's the attitude. And our attitude is one of gratitude. As Muslims, we put our head down on the ground to the Almighty, the one above. And in this position, with the head on the ground, lowering ourselves in front of Him, then we have done the most amazing thing. The human being who considers himself so proud and arrogant lowers himself before the Lord of the worlds, puts his head on the ground and asks Him, "Oh God, forgive me. Forgive me and have mercy on me." So this really gives us a chance to understand the marker, the place where we all face. We don't worship that, but we worship the God that created that and everything else. And we line up all together, uniting our hearts and our worship, and we all face the same direction wherever we are in the world. And this is something amazing that you only find in Islam. Because once a year, every year, the Muslims gather at this place, the Kaaba, in Mecca, to worship the Rabbil Alameen, the Lord of the worlds. We go there and we perform these rituals, and this is to remember and commemorate what Abraham and his son Ismail did centuries and millenniums ago. It's not something new whatsoever. In fact, it's a return back to the original form of worship and the original place of worship of the one God of Abraham, the God of all of the prophets. Once I presented this to the gentleman there in Canada, he was amazed, he was astounded, and he was looking at me like, I didn't know that. I didn't realize this. Then he turns and he says to me, you know what? This makes sense. This is exactly what I've always believed, that there's only one God, and He doesn't have partners. I don't believe in 3 gods or 2 gods. I don't believe in a son of a God. I believe just in the one God. And I said, well, this is what we believe. He said, well, I believe in the God of Abraham. I said, this is what we believe. I said, now I have a question for you. Remember what I said in the beginning? If you heard yourself say, gee, I like this for me. Gee, this is what I already believed. Would you be prepared then to worship your God and my God, your Lord, my Lord, alone without partners? He goes, yeah. I said, okay. And that gave us an opportunity right then to ask him if he's prepared to enter into Islam, by explaining now the details of what is Islam. We talked a little bit about, of course, the belief or the Aqidah of Islam, and then we went to the 5 pillars of Islam. I explained to him that being a Muslim, you obey Allah, and one of the things Allah has asked us to do after entering into Islam, of course, is to make the Shahada, give the statement of La ilaha illallah. None is worthy of worship except Allah. and Muhammad are Rasulullah, that Muhammad is his messenger, and as such, I'm going to use him as my example and follow his teachings. Understanding that, then I know that I have to begin to pray 5 times a day, called Salawatul Khams, and I explained that to him. We talked about the fasting in Islam, that we have to, every year, fast the month of Ramadan. And then we talked about the zakah, and we spoke about the hajj to the Bayt of Allah, which is how the whole question came to begin with, talking about making this pilgrimage. And he asked me about that, and I said the only ones who are allowed to make this pilgrimage are real Muslims. So the only way you could go there and really worship the Lord of the worlds is to be a Muslim. And he said, you know what, I really am ready to be a Muslim. And I understand it, I want to do it. So we gave him Shahada right there in front of the whole masjid there in Toronto, Canada. And he took his Shahada. He said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu rasul. I bear witness in open testimony. There's none to worship except the one Almighty God, and he has no partners. And I bear witness in open testimony to the prophethood of all the prophets, starting with Adam and going to Muhammad. Peace and blessings be upon them all. He said it, and what means that in Arabic? Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu Muhammad Rasulullah. Today, I'm happy to announce to you and report that this gentleman has become a very fine Muslim. He married one of our Muslim sisters from Somalia, and together they're living a very good life as Muslims in Canada, helping other people to do what we're trying to do with our series right here, and that's to clear up these misconceptions and lift the fog that's been promoted out here about what is Islam and who are the Muslims. That's what our series is about. We'll hope you'll be back for more of this right here on Huda TV. This is something important for all Muslims to realize. It's our obligation, it's our responsibility to lift the fog and let people see the real Islam on real, easy, simple terms. This is your host, Yusuf Estes, and it's my pleasure and privilege to be with all of you on these subjects. We've got a lot more right here on Huda TV. Stay tuned for more right here. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.